But to me, a big difference is actually our inter-se relationship, which is today become so much more confident and so much deeper. So, in fact, the one point I would differ with Minister Hayashi, actually, I hope one day it will be 1,111, the 1111.
When you walked in, all of you seemed quite at ease, and there was a bit of a, a relaxed field vibe to it.
There's always a relaxed field when we.
So, what did you discuss inside the room?
A lot of things, but if my colleagues would indulge me, we actually today captured some of our discussions in the form of a statement. I think that statement would have been put out or will be put out. So if you ask me what were the new things which came out today, we agreed on a counter-terrorism working group. We agreed on cooperating more closely with the Indian Ocean Rim Association. We agreed that there would be a, we had earlier worked out a HADR initiative. So the standard operating procedures for that, which I think the military people would obviously see as a prerequisite for their cooperation. I think we coordinated on the UN to make sure that the processes of the UN are respected, and the workings of the UN stay true to its spirit. I was personally happy that there was a stronger expression of support from all of us collectively to the reform of the UN, to the fact that there would be intergovernmental negotiations on the reform. I also see that when it comes to sustainable development goals, which all of us are committed to, we believe that they should be pursued comprehensively, not cherry-picked for political convenience. We will be doing a maritime security working group very shortly in Washington, and we discussed, among other things, one of the outcomes we agreed on was that the listings of terrorists, the counter-terrorism side listings should not be politicized. So these were some of the outcomes. So I mean, there were a lot of things which I can't tell you. But this is the public side of what we can tell you. So I thought collectively I should be putting it out.
And how do you respond to this common refrain that most politicians seem to indulge in from the Quad countries, that this is not against anyone, we are not a security grouping, we are not a military grouping. Why are we apologetic?
No, I don't think, look, we are not apologetic. I do believe, because I keep reminding people of 2004, because to me, if your origins are in common good, there's an innate virtue in your existence, okay? So we do stand for something. What I would not like to be defined as is standing against something or somebody, because that diminishes me. That makes it out as though some other people are the center of the world and I'm only there to be for them or against them. I don't think, actually I think I'm the center of the world, but that's a different matter.
Okay, I'm going to turn to, as is custom here, I'm going to turn to our young fellows. We have 48 young fellows from 33 countries who are spending 2 weeks with us, and typically we go to a couple of them for every session to hear their thoughts, their questions for all of you. So I'll turn to first to Teesta and then to Kiritbir. Teesta, introduce yourself very briefly.
Good morning, Ministers. My name is Teesta Prakash, and I'm from the Australian Strategic Policy Institute in Canberra. And my question to you is, how do we build a regional consensus in the Indo-Pacific, given the 4 Quad countries sit on the periphery of the Indo-Pacific? How do we then include Southeast Asia? How do we bring the Pacific Islands with us to really sort of create a regional narrative for what is not a security perhaps, but an economic architecture? How do we bring the region along with the 4 Quad countries? Thank you.
And can I just add to that, because all of you have also invoked the term, look, all of you have started speaking like each other, and that worries me. All of you say ASEAN centrality.
That actually makes me happy.
Okay. You say ASEAN centrality, and we keep thinking, what does that really mean? Does it mean that beautiful flower arrangement in the middle of the room when 4 of you are sitting? What does it really mean? So, sorry, the second question, Kirit Bir. Let me go to the second question and then I'll come to you. Can we take the second question?
Thanks, Samir and panelists. I'm Kirbir Chahal. I work for the British government. Similar question to narrative, but how do you think the Quad can reconcile their strategic interests in and their competing visions for the Indo-Pacific? And given the Quad are already discussing supply chain resilience and economic resilience more broadly, are Quad members likely to increase market access for each other to further strengthen that economic cooperation and truly move in the same direction?
Good. So now I'll turn to the panelists. The first one was to you, ma'am. So over to you, Minister Wong.
Well, I might. I think the nub of the first question goes really to complementarity. I'm trying to not be provoked by the flower arrangement analogy just for the moment, but it goes to complementarity, and I think if we can start perhaps where Jai started, which is think about what we are for, not what we are against. What are we for? I think where we are very like-minded is we have a view about the attributes of the region we inhabit. And that region, people will use different words. Some say open and inclusive. Some might say stable, secure, free of, where sovereignty is respected. But the point is, we do have a view about that. We see the Quad, I would say, as a bit of a lighthouse.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
That was for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
But we conceive it as enabling choices. And I think it enables choices in two ways. It enables choices by these countries working for a region with the attributes that enable choices. And it also enables choices by virtue of the practical work that we seek to do together, sometimes through all four in the work streams that Jai described, sometimes collaboration, whether it's in the Pacific where Australia and Japan or Australia and India might work together in a particular country. This project is a good one for you to do, this is a project we'll do, this is what we've done, that sort of practical cooperation. So I don't feel the dissonance that I know some commentators feel, and that is underpinning a couple of the questions, as between the different architectures, because as an Australian, the region in which we live demands the engagement at multiple levels in multiple contexts. We are the first dialogue partner of ASEAN, so our commitment to ASEAN centrality is historic and real, but it is also geographic. And we do not see our engagement with our friends and partners up here on the stage as doing anything other than enhancing that.
Thank you. Secretary Blinken, ASEAN centrality. India also has its own neighbors who it has to take into account, their views, their positions. Is there a time to, just taking this question forward, are we creating enough mechanisms to engage with these countries? We are 4 big countries in the region, in the periphery, as Tista mentioned. So what is the mechanism to reach out, to take them along, to sometimes respond to anxieties? You are going to create ripples, and perhaps also the second question of Kirit Bir on connectivity and congruence within the Quad.
Well, so let me start with coming back to the first question, and just adding to what Penny said, I think very, very eloquently. Our proposition is not to say to countries in the region, you have to choose. Our proposition is to offer a choice, to offer an affirmative alternative. And the more we're able to do that, and do that in practical ways, I think the more cohesion you're going to see throughout the region. And as we've already discussed, in a number of very practical areas that actually answer the needs of countries in different parts of the region, that's exactly what the Quad is doing. Second, to Penny's point, and I think this is very important, we really look at this as variable geometry, which is to say there are different collections of countries, some in formal alliances, some in looser partnerships, some working together on a bilateral basis, some in slightly larger groupings. And the idea really is to make sure that we're fit for purpose for any particular challenge. And so it may be that the Quad can focus on certain things where the particular attributes of our countries brought together make sense. There are other places where different groupings of countries, whether in existing alliances or new partnerships that we form, make the most sense because it addresses the particular interests or particular attributes that those countries can bring to the table. So I think you have to think of it that way. This is not a rigid thing. And that's, I think, the mindset that the four of us have. Although now maybe it's the five of us. I think, Samir, you're now an honorary member. Maybe you're the sort of the fifth Beatle, as it were. So that's the approach that we're taking. And the other thing I think it's important to understand is this is an ongoing conversation. And one of the strengths that we have is, and we just had a meeting over breakfast, but it's just picking up a conversation that's happening virtually all the time in some fashion among the four of us or among some subset of the four of us. And that also gives it great power because there's tremendous continuity. And what we're working on most now is translating the vision that we brought to this into very concrete, practical things that address very concrete, practical needs of countries throughout the region.
Would you guys have a WhatsApp group? Okay, no, I'm sorry, that is not a question. Minister Hayashi, your responses to ASEAN and...
All has been said. I don't want to add anything on those comments already made, but is this a group or what? You know, this is a kind of, not a band like the Beatles. You know, the member is fixed and they always play together in 10 years. But this is more like a more kind of soft group, so that even within the Beatles, Paul McCartney can release the album by solo. And then, you know, so yeah, so those are the things, you know, that could be a band, but everybody is really one have a relation with, you know, that other band, other musicians. So as for ASEAN, we have a 50th anniversary for ASEAN. So and that information we can share with four of us here, so that any idea relating to that could be I can absorb from those three friends here. So those are the situations we are facing, and it's very nice to talk all these issues surrounding the area, because we have a trust between four of us, and the trust for, like I said at the beginning, the same values and same values such as democracy, freedom, and everything. So without worrying about those big conditions, we can really freely talk within this and communicate. So that's the only things that I would like to add.
Dr. Jaishankar?
Which part, the Beatles part or the...
Go ahead. I mean, you always come...